Hello everyone, Person7 here, and welcome back to Bloons TD Battles 2. In this video, we're talking all about late game and Sentry Champion. I did recently have it unlocked, and I was curious to see, as Sentry Champion is one of my favorite towers in, well, vanilla BTD6. Well, Engineer is just, in general, one of my favorite towers. But anyways, I was excited to unlock it in Bloons TD Battles 2, although I was kind of skeptical about it, seeing as you do need like attack speed bonuses in order to like really make full use of it, which usually ends up being, you know, Homeland and Overclock. I didn't really have Overclocked unlocked when I first unlocked it. I ended up skipping out on it and just going straight to Champion, as I had no DDT defense. Now, if you're curious, the next videos that's going to be like this is going to be on Prince of Darkness, because I am very close to unlocking that, and I'm actually very curious to see, you know, if Prince of Darkness is just as good as against DDT rounds as it is in BTD6. If so, then that means I won't have to spend like 30k on Champion and can just save a bit more money, not to waste as much. Now, this match here is the first time I actually was able to use Sentry Champion in a real game. And of course, it ends up being on my least favorite map, Docks. I don't really say least favorite. Basalt Columns is probably my least favorite map, but anyways, it's on Docks, and one of my least favorite maps simply because there is no central area to really place my towers. I feel like that really hampers Engineer, especially because sentries can't really spawn in really good spots. It either has to be towards the front of the track or towards the back of the track, which I don't really like. Now, skipping past early game, as early game is a bit boring. It's pretty much the same as always, no difference. I did end up, you know, trying to rush my opponent with round 13 regen rainbows. That unfortunately that didn't work. More glaives and plus boosts apparently is more than enough to defend round 13, and it's fine. Anyways, I am kind of curious at this guy defense. You know, it's kind of bare. He really only has 3 towers down, and it's like round 19. And so I did suspect that he was probably saving up for some expensive upgrade, which he is. Try and guess down in the comments which expensive upgrade he was affording, because it really kind of surprised me. Anyway, since I knew this match was going late game, I decided to get like around 2,000 eco so it can hopefully afford, you know, Champion in time. I was kind of worried about that Moab there because, you know, most of my defense is set in the back of the track, so I just had bought a Dragon's Breath in the back. Of course, Dragon's Breath also is going to be used for Phoenix, as Phoenix is pretty good at countering rushes. It's able to take down fortified BFBs on like even the shortest of maps. Maybe not Koru, well definitely not Koru because that map's really short. But it is surprisingly good at countering rushes. Just make sure you have something else for purples. Now, it seems like both of us kind of know like what's going to come in 4 rounds, so we are just, I guess, just chilling out a bit and not really ecoing too hard, although this guy is still sending balloons, which is a curious decision. I decided to send this guy a ZOMG because his Moab damage is terrible. Moab press is really his only like main defense. AP darts is okay, but I mean, I wouldn't bank on it taking down an entire ZOMG. Especially, you know, if you end up popping all the BFBs and Moabs all at once, Morglaives is going to get overwhelmed pretty easily. Now, you know, this, like, rush here I kind of sent, you know, really did show me just, like, the sheer power of, like, Moab press. And, you know, I am kind of secretly wishing that it was just this good in BTD6, as it really is just insane when it comes to stalling. You know, I've heard people like on the Battles 2 subreddit say like how insane it is when it comes to like basically almost perma-stalling, but I didn't really think it'd be that good. Anyways, just in prep for like round 26, I am just setting up for some defense I think would probably be helpful, like of course Snowstorm, because that can actually slow down DDTs. Now this ZOMG is making it, you know, pretty far on, you know, the 1-2-22-46 is on his side. So I was kind of wondering, you know, is he gonna die here? Maybe not. Of course, he does have an Orb Press, which can pretty much hold the ZOMG in place, but he's gonna have to beat the insides. Only has 1 tower to do so. So even again, if you end up defending, I was hoping, you know, maybe to get a boost out of him, so that way, you know, you just have 1 less boost than me, and hopefully, like me, I can send out DTs faster than him. Now, remember that expensive tier 5 I was talking about in the beginning? Well, he ended up getting it. It ends up being Moab Dom, which is a very curious decision. Now, I guess it was like horribly desynced, as he ended up leaking it all the way down to 32 lives and ended up using a boost. Now, Moab Dom is a very curious decision. I know Aliens Rock did use it in one match, and you know, it seemed pretty bad against bads. since, you know, the knockback obviously doesn't work. And so that pretty much like put, was just kind of hole in the road, or fork in the road, as now, you know, I can't really rush him with DDT since he has Moab Dom. Now I was slightly worried about my own DT defense, so I ended up like selling in order to actually afford champion in time. He didn't immediately come in with the DDT rush, which I am semi-thankful for. He probably suspected I had, you know, maybe a tier 5 or so. So I am just kind of like looking back in the footage and wondering, you know, how long was he saving up for Moab Dom? As Moab Dom's like over 60k when you combine, you know, all the rest of the upgrades. So like really it's just like how you were able to afford eco and, you know, like get Moab Dom when you don't even have a monkey town. But anyways, now that I bought Sentry Champion, let's talk about it. One of the first things you'll notice is that the projectiles are a lot smaller than they are in BTD6. This was probably done for lag reasons, I can imagine so. And I will say, you know, it's fairly effective against DDTs. You know, it's not the best, but you know, it isn't, yes, terrible, as you'll see with these fortified DDT rush here. Now I say, you know, it's not bad against DDTs, even though I really almost died to this like miniature rush here. If he just had went in just a bit more, I definitely would have died, as I ended up, like, the ceramics ended up having to go into blue trap and weren't actually able to defend. Now, you know, I sent him thumbs up for like defending it, and he sends me a thumbs up. Now, I just remember that this is a 502 Sentry Champion, which of course you don't really want. You want to get 520, as has better Moab damage. So I was thinking, you know, that was partially maybe the reason why I didn't defend DDTs as well as I would like to. So I ended up selling it. I didn't get it down fast enough, and my opponent ended up taking advantage of that. Slightly unfortunate. Even if I didn't sell it, I probably wouldn't even be able to defend this. Now I must say that, you know, the wizard hitbox is kind of weird. As you see right there, I was really struggling to place it, even though it looked like I had more than enough room. Anyways, this match here, I ended up not actually recording it until round 27, as I didn't start recording until I got Sentry Champion, which is a 520 this time. I made sure to get it. And so now I'm just spamming 420 Sentry Experts, just, you know, to help out a bit more against DDT rounds. Now in this match, I ended up, you know, having Overclocked unlocked, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I really wasn't able to utilize it, as I kept overclocking Gwendolyn instead of like Sentry Champion. This is slightly annoying, as I feel like the hitbox for like some towers in order to overclock is way too large. You'll even see like I'm clicking on Sentry Champion's, you know, like circle to actually hit it, but I'm not actually overclocking it. Now here I literally was preparing for, you know, the bad that's inevitably gonna come on around 30. So I really just like was wondering and just hoping and praying that I would have enough in order to actually beat the bad. All I need to do was pop the bad layer, and I could easily just use Snowstorm to slow down the insides. Now you'll see here I'm actually using Cleansing Foam, which I actually found out that Cleansing Foam actually de-leads DDTs, which is actually incredibly useful. Although maybe not, because, you know, Gwendolyn's Heat Up does give plus 10 to all, not plus 10, I think it's like plus 2 to lead balloons in range, plus 2 damage to lead balloons. I'm not sure if that carries over from BTD6, but I imagine it does. Now, neither me or Teal Zebra is actually like being too aggressive with rushing him and everything. You know, we are just kind of just chilling out. He's just spamming spike balls, which I really shouldn't let him do. As spike balls, I can imagine, is fairly strong in this game, especially the extra damage to fortified and ceramic balloons. Anyways, I was just here just trying to get my overclock up. He ends up sending thumbs up for whatever reason. Anyways, like I said, I was just trying to get my overclock up, as I really wanted to see and just know how strong an overclock Sentry Champion is going to be. Although I ended up not really, again, like I said, not being able to take advantage of it, as I kept overclocking Gwendolyn. It's incredibly annoying. Now you couldn't see my cursor here. I had it turned off in OBS, although looking back I probably should enable it. But just like trust me on this one, like I was really trying to like click Sentry Champion and I just couldn't do it. You know, at this point I figured that my opponent probably wasn't going to rush me, seeing as it is round, you know, 31. They haven't even sent a bad. They're still just spamming spike balls. Even got their little discount village. You know, like looking back, I probably could have definitely rushed him with the bad. He probably maybe not could have defended it since he only has BADS as his only bad damage. Spike ball spam, I can imagine, might do something, but it probably isn't the best. Now I am kind of questioning, whether or not Ultra Boost would probably even be worth it late game. As I looked at the price of Ultra Boost, it is 120k in Battles 2, which is quite a lot. Anyways, my opponent ends up sending fortified DDTs, and unfortunately not able to defend it even with using Boost and Snowstorm. There's just one left over that was probably about to die. Anyways, this match I decided to record as my opponent isn't going meta in any way, shape, or form. He's going, Mortar, Glue, and Striker so far. I wanted to record this match as it is kind of fun, and kind of refreshing to see someone else using a strategy that just isn't meta. Well, I don't hate players that, just really only use meta, but I do just kind of wonder, why even play a multiplayer game if you're just going to use the same strategy everyone else is using? To me that's kind of boring and just kind of makes me wonder, why are you even playing if you're just going to use the same strategy that everyone else is going to use? To me, part of the fun of, multiplayer games, and especially PvP games like this, is trying out different strategies to see, what's viable, what works, how do all the towers interact, but playing, just only going meta to me is just kind of why play if you're just gonna use the same towers everyone else uses? Now, just thinking about it, I can answer that question easily. It's because Tartling, really, it's kind of hard to counter as 2-3-0 is kind of bugged, as apparently Laser Shock stacks infinitely. Now it just seems I'm kind of noticing a trend with Battles 2 recently. It's that the most overpowered towers are towers that are bugged and don't even work properly. Tack had +1 Pierce to 002, and now Dartling has Laser Shock stacks infinitely, even though it's not supposed to. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic here. In this video, you can actually see the power of Bloon Trap, and when I first unlocked it, I actually kind of underestimated it, as Bloon Trap is surprisingly good. It is generating a decent amount of money. When my opponent sends, just eco yellow, Bloon Trap, the double gun can't keep up with the yellows that are spawning, so it just ends up going into Bloon Trap, and makes it collect faster. Now, of course, Bloon Trap relies on the opponent sending eco, because that's generally where you want to put it. I decided to, not be too aggressive with, rushing or doing anything against my opponent, as I really just wanted to see, how he was going to play his strategy. It was kind of refreshing, seeing a very, very off meta build. None of these towers here are particularly meta. And this is actually the first time I've seen someone use Mortar, which is kind of surprising, as I feel like Signal Flare and Shattering Shells would actually be a lot more viable than people think it is. I also was curious to see if you had any of the tier 5 mortars, or just any tier 5 towers in general. Mainly mortars, because I was curious to see, just to see how good, Pop and All would be, as I can imagine you can micro that in order to really shut down most rushes that aren't bats. And then once the balloons are stunned, you can just spam assassins all over the map and then spam the ability. Although I am wondering, what's the purpose of glue? As I don't really feel like you need to slow down towers when you're using mortar or bomb or striker. As super glue is, it's good at stunning balloons, but you already have Pop and All, so it's not really necessary. Solver, biggest one does Solver's job, but better. Bloon Sin again is incredible mob damage, and really Glue Strike +1 damage would probably be okay, but definitely not really needed. Anyways, again, like I said, me or Face Roller aren't too aggressive with rushing. We really are just ecoing just as hard as I can. I guess Face Roller also did want to see me go late game, as again, this is a pretty off meta strategy. I guess the really only meta tower here is probably Wizard. I've never really seen too many people use NG. I think only maybe 1 or 2 people. Even then, I've only seen them go NG for Bloon Trap, which is kind of a curious decision, as I feel like, Bloon Trap as a main income source is not really that good. Maybe just a secondary cast arena option. Anyways, Face Roller gets an Artillery Battery. Now, Artillery Battery seems a bit bugged, as I really don't see the explosions from Artillery Battery. Maybe they reduced it to I guess minimize lag, but it still just is a bit awkward to see it shooting, but it's not, doesn't seem to be landing anywhere. Anyways, Face Roller is now spamming assassins across the map, which again, I assume, you know, assassins will probably be very good in this game, as assassins are relatively semi-cheap. I'm assuming, you know, it's the same as BT6 prices. And so if you just get enough of them, you can just spam the ability just over and over and over and over, and be able to defend, you know, just, I guess, you know, fortified ZOMGs. Although you'd probably struggle with multiple, as of course, you know, assassins target strong, and you know, since fortified ZOMGs, you know, are the same ranked, when there's two of them on the screen, it would just target the first one. So you'd probably get overwhelmed by BFB insides. Now, of course, you know, with the strategy Face Roll is going for, Striker's like just the obvious choice. And so it seems that, you know, me and Face Roller just kind of know like what's going to happen. You know, this round is definitely going to go to DDT round, so he is just kind of just spamming down, you know, bomb shooters and getting a shell shot, which is a curious choice to get this late in the game, as I feel like it wouldn't really do much. He places yet again another glue and gets a dissolver, or I'm assuming that's a tier 4. It's probably just tier 3. Anyways, I don't really use top path glue that often. Again, I don't really feel like glue would do much in this strategy, as, you know, again, like I said, Solver is just the worst, biggest one. You know, super glue, again, you have pop and awe. Middle path only gives +1 damage, and that, to me, +1 damage, especially with, you know, BTD Battles 2 ramping late game, is pretty insane. +1 damage really isn't going to make too much of a difference. Anyway, Sentry Champion is just almost a fort, and I ended up selling that Bloon trap in the back as it really wasn't doing much, and woohoo, Sentry Champion. Now, I will spoil it a bit. In this match, I was actually able to overclock it finally. Now, it was kind of annoying in previous matches that I just couldn't just hit the hitbox for overclock. I ended up getting 3 shimmers, an embrittlement, and cleansing foam, as I really just wanted to make sure I decamoed every single DDT. It was probably a bit overkill, but you know, you can never be too safe. Face Roller ends up sending me a fortified ZOMG, which is a curious decision seeing as I have Sentry Champion. And, you know, I did kind of expect Sentry Champion to be able to solo this. I was just looking at the DPS and I was just thinking, you know, it seems pretty good. I ended up getting a snowstorm and using ability immediately just to give me a bit more time. He sends purples, which is again curious, as I do have Bloon Trap and embrittlement. You know, Ice Shards is pretty good at shutting down purples. He probably knew that he was kind of screwed against DDTs, as again, his really only damage against DDTs would be assassins, and you have to spam quite a lot of those in order to work. Anyways, the ZOMG was getting a lot farther than I would have liked it to, so I ended up getting a Summon Phoenix, again, just to help a bit. And this just really shows that Summon Phoenix, you know, is pretty good at shutting down rushes. Anyways, I sent a little laughing emote just to taunt him a bit, you know, just make fun of his little pathetic rush. He ends up sending a heart back, which is a very curious decision. I guess he liked the fact that I was able to easily defend it. Now, you know, going late game like this actually makes me, you know, just a bit more excited to actually just go late game, especially when I get, you know, more of my tier 5s, like, you know, Icicle Impale and Print of Darkness, which those 2 towers by themselves could probably shut down most DDT rushes. Well, I guess my main issue would probably just be being able to afford all that. I am considering, you know, switching out Wizard with Village, you know, just because that defense is a bit too expensive for actually afford it all. You know, I ended up sending him 2 DDTs, just normal DDTs, just feel out his defense to see, you know, just where he was at. He did defend the first one easily, but without the Moab Assassin ability, he's just terrible against him. Now, knowing this, I decided not to keep pressuring him and sending even more DDTs, as I really just want to go late game and just like fully utilize my defense to the fullest. And of course, I remembered to get the correct cross path this time, 520 instead of 502, as 520 has +1 damage against fortified and Moab class balloons, which is definitely what you want late game more than pin, as pin can't affect ceramics, unfortunately. Now that I was finally able to save enough money, I decided to get my overclock. And to make sure I actually ended up overclocking the right tower, I ended up selling like the sentry gun down there. Now I tried overclocking it once and I ended up overclocking the Sentry Expert down there, so I decided, you know, just sell it as just to make sure I fully actually overclocked, you know, Sentry Champion instead. No, I really do think that's a problem that needs to be fixed with overclock, is maybe make the hitbox just a bit smaller. Maybe it's just so large for mobile players so that players don't maybe accidentally fat finger, you know, the wrong tower, but they still probably end up doing that anyways, as you do need a lot of space around a tower in order to accurately overclock it. If not, you'll just end up being like me and accidentally overclock the wrong tower. And it's not even like I'm like missing it on purpose or just like hitting like the hitbox or tower lower, like I'm in the middle of the circle where I'm overclocking and it's still just not overclocking the right tower. Unfortunately, this is the only match I was actually able to use overclock, and it was just the perfect timing as I was able to test out, you know, overclock Sentry Champion. And overclock Sentry Champion with Snowstorm is surprisingly easy. I even sent a little taunt at his fortified DDT rush, as I know that he has to be hurting for income right about now. Anyways, I decided to go all in on round 30, and I sent him a bad Bloon. Now this is the first time I actually seen a pad in game, and I was kind of curious to see if he was going to be able to defend it, since Moab Assassin is really his only Moab damage. Artillery Battery is, I guess, okay, but not really a tower you'd get for Moab damage. And it doesn't seem like Artillery Battery has the bombardment buff, which is kind of curious, as I feel like that should have come over from BTD6. And of course, I wasn't just gonna send him a bad, I ended up sending him DDTs just so they can fly to his defense, as he used all of his Moab Assassin ability, and that's how you win late game. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this episode. If you liked it, consider subscribing, dropping a like, or commenting, whatever. Look forward to, I guess, part 2 of this sort of style episodes, where I'm gonna be testing out how good Prince of Darkness is late game.